Stormborn by Black K. Cat. Chapter 6, First Movement. Impromptu Introductions. Impromptu. A short piano piece, often improvisational and intimate in character. Kabuto dreams of it more often than he will ever admit to, sober. Dreams of dawn on the ocean, and a white beach stretching out before him as he steps off the swells and onto the shore, Karin on his right. Kimimaru is on the other side, a guard from Orochimaru who is interested in this unexpected occurrence. The breeze is cool and salt-scented, and before them, beyond the gentle roll of the dunes, a city rises. It's battered, nearly ruined, but a handful of buildings are standing, pale and shining, between piles of rubble. White stone and red roof tiles, golden brown streets that stretch away until they disappear beneath the debris. And it's nothing special, just a village destroyed by war. But Kabuto's breath catches in his throat regardless. But Kabuto freezes on that dune, unable to take another step from the sheer wonder that's beating in his veins. There's no logical reason for it. No foundation for that, or the ease that suddenly came over him the moment his sandal met solid ground. But it's there nevertheless. From the look on Karen's face, she feels it as well. They trade glances, and even though he's rarely spoken to her before, she a jailer, and he a medic, and Orochimaru's personal assistant, there are no words needed between them. With Kimimaru trailing behind, they stride forward, up into the remains of Uzushio Gakure. There are 3 chakra signatures to the left, Karen murmurs, leading them in that direction, and there's a faint smile on her face. One of them is cold, and one is dark, but the last is just beautiful. As they round the corner, Kabuto almost falls over his own feet with surprise. Uzumaki Naruto, the dead last Konoha who somehow still managed to give Orochimaru applause in the fight, is seated on a fallen column. Sabaku no Gara on his left, and Momochi Zabuza's former apprentice on his right. He's smiling, warm and bright, and there's something about him that's very, very different than that slightly out-of-place boy Kabuto remembers. Hey, he says cheerfully, you guys are the first to get here. Uzumaki, Kabuto asks warily, even as his thoughts race ahead, trying to connect the pieces. Naruto is here, has been waiting for them. They're the first of how many? How many people heard the call that he and Karen did, and what is the connection between them? But before he can ask anything, before he even has time to open his mouth, Naruto is in front of him, and the expression on his face would be far more suited to a man twice his age. Slowly enough for it not to be a threat, he reaches out to touch the edge of Kabuto's hair, and his smile turns wistful. You look like Shunka, he says, the tone both fond and sad. She sucked at medical ninjutsu, though. Couldn't even fix a paper cut. Still, her younger sister was good at it, one of the best in Uzushio. Maybe you're descended from her. There's a kind of ringing silence in Kabuto's head, a fine trembling in the hands that have always been so absolutely steady. He swallows hard, fighting down thoughts of orphanages and identities and the only mother he'd ever had trying to kill him, and worse yet, not recognizing him. You know who I am? He asks softly, and it's astounding that his voice doesn't shake. The look Naruto gives him is considering, thoughtful. Well, he answers easily, I know your clan. I'm not entirely sure how you're related, but I can tell that you are. Ookami clan coloring is pretty hard to mistake. With a smile, he steps back, turning to Karen, and his face lights up. Oh! You're another Uzumaki! Karen's eyes widen. You do? She asks, and then quickly adds, No, your chakra reserves are definitely Uzumaki. Are you the one rebuilding this place? Zabuza's apprentice is smiling, and Gara is looking away, but there's faint contentment in his eyes. Naruto steps back to join his 2 companions, and like a cloak falling over him, he's suddenly more himself, more than just a child and an orphan, more than just a runaway Konoha. I am, he says, conviction lighting his features like a solar flare. It's been a ruin for too long. We need somewhere to settle, to come back to. Everyone does. And Kabuto wonders at those words. Feels wonder rather than confusion, even though they have the ring of a Kage's absolute faith coming from a Genin's mouth. Because they feel like hope and home and safety feel right and steady even when nothing has since he left the orphanage and Nono's care. He looks around him, taking in the marks of work clearing stone and wood, the skeletons carefully laid out on a cleared patch of ground, the handful of buildings rising tall and proud. Thinks of clans and family and looking like someone. Okami, he thinks, and smiles to himself. I am an Okami. Where do you want us to start? He asks, quietly stubborn, and meets Naruto's eyes, just daring him to refuse. But he doesn't. He simply grins, bright and warm and welcoming, and steps away. Let me show you, he says, and leads them deeper into their new village. And then, of course, Kabuto wakes up. An explosion goes off outside his window, followed by a scream. Not fear, certainly, as the civilians have long since adjusted to living in the madness that is Uzumaki Naruto/Arashi's home for wayward social rejects and various nut jobs, but angered because Fu has a bad habit of playing tricks on Suigetsu, who doesn't appreciate it in the least. And then more shrieking joins in because Karen hates collateral damage, even when it's Suigetsu getting his face pounded into various unyielding surfaces. And Kabuto groans and drags his blankets up over his head, trying in vain to shut out the noise. A rustle of fabric shows he's not alone in his room, but Kabuto doesn't even bother looking. Am I allowed to send them back to Orochimaru gift wrapped and tied with a bow? He asks, though the tone is resigned. Please. The other man huffs a quiet laugh, even as he slides the curtains open to let in the morning light. The noise level, unfortunately, increases. You'll have to take that up with Goro-kun, he answers. He's the one in charge until Uzukage-sama returns. But I think Naruto-sama might object to having half of his top shinobi deported. Can you picture it, though? Kabuto counters, leaning up on his elbows and eyeing his friend, who is one of the few sane people in this madhouse, container of the Rokubi or not. It would be so quiet. Utakata raises an eyebrow, entirely undisturbed by the surge of fire that shoots up over the streets. Eerily so, I imagine. Get up, Kabuto-kun. If you're not at the hospital within the hour, all of your minions will likely start to self-destruct without you. Kabuto prays for patience, even as he levers himself out of bed. Had he known that this would be the result, he'd have rejected Naruto's request that he be chief medic out of hand, and probably fled the country for good measure. Shouldn't you be with Gaara? He asks as he dresses, especially if Karin is out there rather than acting as his assistant. Our dear Jonin commander is with his team. Utakata's voice is dry. I believe he has a similar reaction to you when faced with antics. We'll be lucky if he doesn't abdicate before the end of the week, let alone before Uzukage-sama gets back. Today is Thursday. Kabuto calculates the odds and rightly concludes that Utakata is probably exactly correct. Is there a contingency plan for if he does? He asks curiously, even as he heads out of his apartment with Utakata a step behind. Utakata grimaces. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, he murmurs, following Kabuto out the window and down to the street, and then turning to the left, he raises a hand in quick farewell. Go to the hospital before I'm forced to deal with all of the paperwork that will come with the medics revolting. I must find Tataru. Good luck, Kabuto offers with a faint smile, and he gets another grimace in return. The girl is a terror, truly, and Utakata is the only one who can even begin to keep her in check. Hopefully, Uzukage-sama will return quickly, Utakata mutters, shaking his head, and if he doesn't, I'm not going to be held responsible for my actions. Haku is with him, Kabuto feels obligated to point out. He'll keep Naruto in line. It's not so much what Naruto-sama will do that worries me, but what I will do when I go to retrieve him. Beg, perhaps. don't cry! Utakata shakes his head and disappears around the corner, and Kabuto sobs snortily as he realizes just who is third in line to take control of the village after the Jonin commander. The Jonin sub-commander, of course, and that just happens to be Utakata. My condolences, he murmurs, even though the other man is out of sight, and then turns on his heel and heads for the hospital to see just what's managed to go wrong today. Ino huffs, stretching her long legs out in front of her as she sinks further down in her chair. Why can't they just rename this Chunin babysitting duty and be done with it? Then at least we'd know what we were getting into. We're Jonin! Where's my well-paid, glory-filled A-rank mission? Eyes fixed on the pile of reports in front of him, Sasuke grunts an agreement. And to think I spent 2 years traveling with that perverted freak of a sage for my promotion, he mutters, and then firmly locks away all thought of the Toad Sage and 24 very long months spent on the road looking for leads. Some things are best forgotten quickly, thoroughly. Ino's growl is low but deadly in its threat level, and she cracks her knuckles for good measure. Freaking pervert better stay away from any bathhouse within 100 miles of me, she snarls, blue eyes narrowing sharply in warning. After last time, that at least makes Sasuke pull his gaze away from the papers in front of him. It's just another disappointment anyways. So it doesn't matter. Blonde, yes. Blue-eyed, yes. But the cheek markings are stage paint and the man a wandering entertainer, not a machine. After last time, he gets in dryly, Jiraiya flinches whenever I so much as mention either you or Sakura, and he's still trying to get rid of some of the bruises. The only response is a sunny smile and a toss of Ino's head that sends her long ponytail flipping back over her shoulder. After the way he was drooling and giggling, he got off lightly, she retorts. We should have beaten him to death. No argument, Sasuke mutters, discarding the folder on the top of the stack and opening the next one. Half a beat later, he rolls his eyes and tosses it to the side as well. Somehow he can't see Naruto, regardless of his status as a missing nin, going into the human trafficking business. Incompetent morons, he growls. What am I even paying them for? To kill trees via large and entirely unnecessary amounts of paperwork? His partner suggests dryly, snatching the next report before he can look at it. Ooh, does this mean Naruto abandoned us to join that? She squints at the name. Is this even handwriting, or is this Black Worm Trails? Jeez. So Naruto's part of the Great Gaizu's traveling attraction show now? As a dancing girl? Sasuke resists the urge to slam his head down on the table. That would be sen, he sighs, pinching the bridge of his nose. I made the mistake of telling him about Naruto's sexy jutsu, and I think he's obsessed. Ino laughs and lets the folder drop to the ground where it settles in the dirt with a sad plop. He did make a sexy girl, she admits freely, picking up another and fanning herself lightly with it. 6 years now. I wonder what he looks like. A stud, you think? Or more effeminate? That could be hot too. Like a dope, Sasuke says stubbornly, giving up on working with Ino in this kind of mood and crossing his arms over his chest. He hasn't let himself think about Naruto as anything other than the 12-year-old who vanished. At least not in the light of day. Because the 12-year-old is the one who disappeared, who's the entire reason Sasuke allowed himself to be dragged along with Jiraiya the perverted wonder for 2 years, shaking down contacts and feeling out spy networks for any scraps of information. That boy is why Sasuke has been establishing his own networks, and even if they can't rival Jiraiya's yet, he's well on his way to being a spy master in his own right. Anything for information. Anything on a single solitary clue as to Naruto's whereabouts. Ino is the only one of the Rookie 9 besides Sasuke himself who doesn't give in to moroseness when Naruto is mentioned. She doesn't subtly hint that it's been too long to have any hope of finding him, the way Sakura does. Or call Sasuke a fool for having kept looking so long, like Kiba does. Doesn't stutter and turn away like Hinata, or go grim and silent like Shikamaru, or sigh resignedly like Shino and Choji. She actually talks about him, smiles at the memory of the other blonde, and Sasuke is unspeakably grateful to her for it. Maybe she started it as a way to get closer to her crush, but they've all grown up a lot over the last 6 years, and now there's only honesty behind it. As if reading his mind, Ino smiles, tipping her chair back as she arches into a long, lithe stretch. She hums. Let a girl fantasize in peace, Sasuke-kun. It's not like you're doing anything to fuel my fantasies. Sasuke rolls his eyes. Aren't you engaged? He points out dryly. Ino waves a dismissive hand. It's Shikamaru. And as much as I like being on top all the time, a change of pace is a nice thing to think about. That gets a full-body cringe in response. Sasuke has become reluctantly fond of Ino, but any thoughts on Shikamaru's sex life are unwelcome, damaging, and entirely unwarranted. I think I'm going to be sick. Hey! But she's laughing, even as she punches him on the shoulder. I'll have you know that I have impeccable taste. Some rocks just need more polishing than others to make them into gems any girl would dream of owning. If by polishing you mean daily beatings. 6 of one, half dozen of another. Ino shrugs, then twists to peer out the window at the main gate off to the left. Come on, can't even one exciting person be traveling into Konoha today? Being standby joining gate guard is great on paper, but I'm going to die of boredom sometime within the next half hour if nothing changes. And the last time we had someone exciting visit the village was... Well, I don't know about you, but I thought that guy with the spear was fairly interesting. Sasuke arches a disbelieving brow at her. The one who claimed his spear was made out of the bones of the Sage of Six Paths and would disintegrate anyone it came into contact with, so we should cede control of Konoha to him immediately. Well, it was certainly fun watching Tsunade drop-kick him right back over the wall 10 seconds after he walked in. Ino tips her head, scanning the folder she's still holding, and then tosses it aside to join the others. There's quite a pile of rejects already, and as the daughter of Konoha's former chief of intelligence, Sasuke trusts her judgment enough that he leaves them where they are. Ino knows what to look for. Sasuke-kun, if I were a suspicious sort of person, I might think all of these so-called spies were using you for their own personal gain and not living up to their end of the bargain. With a grimace, she discards another. I've had my suspicions. Sasuke very carefully doesn't add the, but I still think it's worth it. He doesn't have to, because from the glance Ino gives him, her lips twisted into a wry, crooked smile. She understands. Before she can answer, though, their headsets come to life with a crackle that makes both of them bolt out of their seats and lunge for their weapons. Someone's coming! Kotetsu murmurs, just barely loud enough to be heard, and Sasuke has to restrain himself from sprinting for the gate. Not a worry for the two Chunin. Kotetsu and Izumo are more than capable of handling themselves most of the time, and Sasuke and Ino's presence is pretty much just for invading army scenarios. But because they've been sitting in this room for 6 hours without a single trip out, they're both getting desperate. I see them too, Izumo agrees. 4 of them. The man in front, he's carrying... It's suspicious looking, Kotetsu chimes in, voice tight, and Ino's got one of her long knives in hand and a bloodthirsty little half-smile on her face in anticipation. What? Sasuke finally grits out, unable to hold it back any longer. What is it? There's a long moment of tense, breathless silence, and then Izumo says... entirely too cheerfully. Oops, sorry, false alarm. That's a goat. With a hiss like a popped balloon, Ino deflates, sagging back into her chair. You! She hisses. You little snakes! The only thing coming from the other end of the lake is Kotetsu's laughter and Izumo's snickering. Sasuke growls and throws himself into his seat. He huffs. See if I'm ever nice to a Chunin again. You're nice to Chunin? Ino asks, skeptically, arching a delicately shaped brow. For the love of the little green apples, why? It takes a second to think that one over. And Sasuke feels slightly vindicated when he can't remember any such incidents of kindness happening previously. Well, if I was ever going to be, I've changed my mind. Good choice, Ino affirms, relaxing the tension from her muscles with a sigh. She flips her knife through her fingers, then sheathes it so quickly it seems to vanish from sight. Sasuke approves with a nod. You've gotten better. Asuma-sensei's been training with me, she explains blithely. stretching once more before settling with her fingers laced over her bare stomach, legs extended and crossed at the ankles. Lee beat me last time we sparred, even though I was using ninjutsu and jinjutsu and my knives. And since Sakura was watching, I'm never going to live it down. But I'll win next time, you can bet on it.
Lee's a monster,
Sasuke says flatly, remembering not without an internal wince his own sparring session with the other boy. Ino huffs out a laugh. Yeah, but Sakura beat me too last time we fought, and with her promotion, she's been insufferable enough lately. It doesn't help that Lee is ridiculously romantic, and she rubs that in my face continuously, seeing as I'm stuck with a great lazy lump of Konoha. Sasuke is so very, very unspeakably relieved that most members of his fan club have moved on to greener pastures, as it were. Maybe a little too literally in Sakura's case. Ino and Sakura more than all the others combined, because they were always the most trouble. Though, granted, it's been a good 4 years since the obsession faded. Ino had jumped to Shikamaru while Sasuke was traveling with Jiraiya, and they'd been happily otherwise engaged when he got back. As for Sakura, the two of them had gotten into a knockdown, drag-out fight about 6 weeks later when Sasuke refused to give up on looking for Naruto. Things were said, tempers snapped, and in the end, Sakura had punched Sasuke through a wall, stalked off, and reappeared the next day looking both a great deal more relaxed and quite a bit more ruffled than normal, with Lee floating after her on a cloud of pure romantic bliss. They've been far better with each other since, though Sasuke knows Naruto is still a bit of a sore point between them. Sakura has more than once accused him of being obsessed, and while Sasuke will never admit to it out loud, he can't quite argue. She did become a Tokubetsu Jonin first. He feels the need to point out, in his former teammate's defense. Ino waves that away, though she still looks slightly biffed at the memory. Technicality! Medicmen occupy a unique category within the shinobi ranks, given their specialized skill set and the requirement of their presence in high-risk situations, such as open combat, where lower-ranked shinobi would be a hindrance to the operation. Therefore, when promoted, most by default qualify for the rank of Tokubetsu Jonin. Sasuke shoots the blonde an amused glance. You memorized that from the handbook, just to quote it back at Sakura, didn't you? The answering grin is close to blinding. I'd like to see proof before I answer any accusations leveled at me, Sasuke-kun. Thank you. There's a pause as they both half-heartedly page through a few more files, and then a pops of nothing. Ino says, I'm really glad you're not a jerk like you used to be, Sasuke-kun. I thought it was part of my charm. Sasuke deflects, but he carefully doesn't look up. It's true, he knows. He was a first-class jerk, and part of him, an achingly, appallingly large part, wonders if that wasn't why Naruto left in the first place. Almost unconsciously, he presses a hand over the dormant and sealed mark on his neck, which no one has been able to remove. It's a symbol now, more than anything. A symbol of what he almost let happen, almost became, very likely would have, if Naruto hadn't provided just enough distraction at exactly the right moment. But Naruto gave that distraction, vanishing into the dawn as he did, and it took Sasuke 2 years on the road, constantly moving, with only the company of the lecherous Toad Sage to come to a realization. 2 years of scanning every crowd they came across for blonde hair and blue eyes and a brilliant smile, of studying every battlefield, empty or occupied, that they passed for signs of futon and suton used together. 2 years of lying on hard-packed ground and staring up at a dark sky and thinking, because there was little else to do when he was too exhausted from training to even sleep. 2 years before he realized that Itachi had been goading him that night, pushing him towards something. Sasuke is nothing if not bullheaded, and as stubborn as a particularly obstinate boulder, and the sudden comprehension had drawn him up short, aggravated and furious and hurt and bewildered. Because why? What purpose could Itachi possibly have had driving Sasuke down this path? Did he want another Uchiha to test his strength against? And that's the answer. Sasuke is hardly about to oblige him. He'll get stronger, of course, advance as far as he can, but right now it's with a different goal in mind. Oh, he'll still take his revenge if it's presented, and eagerly at that. But it's not his entire existence anymore, which is better. Both easier and harder, but manageable. For the first time since he was 7, Sasuke is living for himself, and he's not about to go back to the way things were. Another crackle of the headset pulls Sasuke out of his thoughts, and he blinks as he finds himself moving automatically for his weapons. Yes, he asks, and though he's wary of another brag, he knows Kotetsu and Izuma well enough to realize that they won't do such a thing again. Not with the safety of the village on the line. Sorry, Sasuke-kun, Ino-chan, Kotetsu says, and beneath the evenness of his voice is the faintest hint of wary bewilderment. I think you need to get out here.